Welcome to the I Do Wedding Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Nina Adio, a social media marketing expert specializing in the wedding industry. Each week, we'll explore the strategies, stories, and insider tips that help wedding professionals thrive. You'll hear solo episodes filled with actual advice for social media and inspiring conversations with esteemed wedding industry guests. Thank you for tuning in and letting this podcast be a part of your day. Let's get started. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the I Do Wedding Marketing Podcast. Or if this is your first time here, hello, my name is Nina Adio, and it's another great episode to start with if this is your first one. Right now, I'm recording this in the start of summer 2025, and this is a time of year where we're 6 months out to the end of the year, so we're really looking at those 2026 bookings a bit more. As this year goes on, the window for 2025 starts to get officially shut for some vendors, and then we go, okay, what is next year looking like? And from what I'm hearing from a lot of vendors, whether it be clients or vendors I connect with online, is that the numbers are not as reliable ever since 2020, right? We're still not sure we're not able to compare numbers and meet and match the same ways we were used to. And that can cause panic when we see 2026 and we go, okay, I only have 50% or less of the bookings I have now for next year. And I think sometimes the first place we go, it can almost be like a panic reflex. The first place we go is I gotta adjust my pricing. I gotta lower my price, I gotta change the brochure, fix the website, I've gotta email everyone I've spoken to in the past 6 months and change my pricing. And that may not be the case or the only solution. And so I wanted to bring on an expert who could speak about this with us beyond how I could, because I'm facing it too. If my vendors are concerned with price, right? That comes to me. And it takes perspective on both of our ends, because when I say to them, you're asking me for 2021 pricing for the same service in 2025. If you had a couple come in and ask for a wedding, but as for 2021 pricing, you probably wouldn't give it to them, right? So kind of exploring what else we can do, holding our ground, knowing how to price for profit. So I'm really excited for today's guest to speak on this, Chris Weinberg. Chris Weinberg is a seasoned luxury wedding planner and creative business leader with over 20 years of experiencing, navigating, and shaping the wedding industry. So she is who we need, guys. This fall, she's actually launching the Event Summit 2025. This is a business and leadership experience designed to help emerging wedding and event pros build profitable, sustainable businesses without the burnout. It's going to be in Miami, and we're going to have a code for you guys, so make sure you listen to the end of the episode, and Chris will give us that. She brings a powerful blend of mindset, strategy, and real-world wisdom, and she's here to share what it really takes to thrive in today's fast evolving market. I think the market is changing more than ever. I think for any of us who have been in business just the past 5 years alone, your business could be 5 years old and you've probably experienced just an evolving market whiplash, even if your business is just 1 to 2 years old. So I'm really excited for Chris to speak to us. Hopefully put us all at ease, right? But like I said, listen until the end because Chris has a special offer for our listeners who want to attend the Event Summit in Miami, October 21st to 22nd, 2025. Chris, thank you so much for being here. Where are you coming from today?
Well, at this exact moment, I'm in the mountains of Western North Carolina, but home base and my office is in Miami. We're on summer break right now, so I get to take a little time and work remotely from the mountains where it's much cooler than it is in South Florida in June.
It sounds like paradise. That's
Well,
the
it's
dream.
very stressful when we're at work with events, so it's nice to be able to counterbalance it with mountains and nature and small towns.
Oh, yes, yes. So that's exactly, I think, the energy we all are going for right now. So, speaking of the stress of events, what is your origin story into the events industry?
Well, I started my business about 21 years ago, very organically. I had always worked full time, and then I took a pause to have three children. And when they were 8, 5, and 3, I was ready to go back to work, but work part time, something where I could control my own hours. So I don't like the idea that I started as a hobby business, but I kind of did that way. I come from a business background. I've had event planning as a component of some of my jobs in the past. And I had done a lot of nonprofit work in my Miami market for volunteering and raising funds and things like that, and got to know some of the people. And the light bulb just went off in my head one day that I could produce events for a limited number of clients. And I suggested to my husband, who was the breadwinner, what if I only work no more than 25% of the weekends of the year? And he said, great. He wanted me to be happy and, knows that doing something besides being a mother, which is a full-time job, would also fulfill my need to work.
And now here you are in the mountains, having that perfect balance, right, of work and play, because she's
Yes, I wish.
podcasting.
Correct. I wish that I happened overnight. It took quite a while to learn how to find that balance, that work-life balance. But yes, this is part of my work-life balance, being able to come here. I I live in an area where it's pretty affluent, and it afforded me the opportunity to begin to work with high net worth clients right away. And so that's the niche of the area that I've always been in. We produce primarily social events, although we do have nonprofit clients and we do have some corporate clients as well. We produce for about 12 clients a year.
Fantastic. Fantastic. I really wanted to talk to you about today for our audiences. There's kind of this feeling right now, especially as, we're getting the halfway point of this year. So people are thinking about next year, having a little panic. They're seeing fewer inquiries, more competition, and more price shopping. So, what would you say to those who are listening, feeling fearful about their pricing, fearful about their bookings, and just the state of the industry? I know that's heavy.
Yes, yes. What I would say is I've been there and I know the pain that everybody is feeling right now. We're in a cyclical business where when it rains, it pours, and when it's quiet, it's really quiet. And as business owners, especially, how are we going to keep the lights on and keep our employees? Because as soon as we let one go, then we get the big inquiry and we're stuck, right? And we all have some processes where we need to have our help with us. I strongly believe, based on my past experiences, that when it's slow, and it is slow, sometimes it's slow for us as well, in terms of exactly what you said, inquiries are slower, the amount of clients that we're doing on an annual basis is down a little bit. And it's been, at least in the South Florida market, it's been this way for us for 2 years. I always recommend, and I take my own advice, and it's based on my own experience. When the times are slow, dig in, don't give up, reevaluate, maybe get some education, whether it's online courses or books or whatever it is that you need. Reevaluate everything that you're doing and how you're doing it. But getting some education puts you in a room with others where you can talk with other people and make sure that what you're feeling, you're not alone in feeling that. And once you know you're not alone in feeling that, it's a great way to do a reset.
So while we're doing a reset, especially right now, people may start pricing emotionally instead of strategically. So how can we price for profit right now instead of just what feels good?
So I used to price emotionally. I did that for about 10 years. It didn't really work that great for me because I landed a lot of clients that weren't the right fit clients for me. And that was a big problem for how I felt about coming to work every day. And I knew that I needed to fix that and change that, but I really didn't know how, right? So the thing that worked for me was creating stability in my company, creating a price structure and a system that worked for me, for my business, for my market, for what was sustainable for me. And then from that, I was really able to attract the clients I wanted to work with, let go. I didn't even have to let go of clients I didn't want to work with. If what I offered didn't fit within what they wanted, they no longer talked to me. But because I didn't know what my pricing was and I was jumping around out of fear, oh, wow, I'm on this hotel vendor list and there are 5 competitors on here with me. Am I going to get this job? Probably not, because the other one's going to charge less, right? So I got stuck in that mindset. And as soon as I stopped looking at what everyone was doing around me, literally put on blinders and said, this is who I am, this is who my company is, this is what we do and who we do it for, I was able to deliver a better sales approach. I was able to deliver a better marketing approach. And I started really to attract much, much better referrals, or not referrals, but much better leads. And it changed everything for me. So I do think that that was a very good way to go. And that was advice that I was giving by a sales and marketing coach who I worked with when we were slow and I just was at my wit's end. How am I going to attract clients and how am I going to afford to hire a team? At that time, 10 years into my business, I was feeling pretty burnt out and exhausted. And so I knew I needed help. I knew I needed to find out how to pay for that help. But I also knew I had half the clients that were not the right fit clients for me. They paid the bills and they spent the money. It wasn't even that. It's just that they were running me around. Like I didn't have processes. And I think that that was and one of my main processes that I didn't have was a marketing plan and knowing what my pricing was going to be, no matter who.
When I was, speaking to your team and looking at your website, to me, it really exuded affluence. It just showed, high end luxury. That's what came across to me. So I'll have her, I'll have that linked in the show notes if you want to see what that looks like. But what comes first, right? The affluent branding and marketing, or the clients, if you're at a starting point.
Well, Nina, you know from your background that that's one of the most difficult questions, right? Chicken or egg. Um, for me, I realized that if I didn't put forward facing who the clients were that I wanted to work with and what I was putting forward wasn't attractive to them, that they were not going to come to me. And this was at a time where the internet was becoming stronger and stronger about 10, 12 years ago. And you definitely needed a website. When I started 21 years ago, you really didn't need a website at all. So the kind of website that I was putting out was beautiful, but it had no thought whatsoever to the type of client that I was looking to attract. So it was just a waste of a website. I found that when I worked with a branding and marketing team that knew our industry and got to know me and knew the kind of clients that I wanted to work with, which, by the way, to get there, I had to do the work. Who do I want to work with? Who do I not want to work with, et cetera, et cetera. And almost as soon as we did a new website and as soon as we had a new Instagram plan that spoke to the kind of client we wanted to work with, it started giving us instant results.
You mentioned also how the price structure and having that set, made such a difference. What does a business owner need to know in order to create that effective pricing structure?
That's a great question, Nina. What really needs to happen first is that business owner or owners need to sit down and decide how much they want to earn. How much do I want to earn? Because if I know how much I want to earn and I know the kind of business that I'm bringing in, how much business would I like to bring in that's attainable, right? And doable. And it's different for everybody. Some of us have packages, some of us are just full service. It's different, right? So I need to know what does it take me to run my business? What are all my costs, my expenses to run this business? And it's really simple math. And if most of us don't like to do that, it's very easy to talk with our bookkeeper or our accountant and have them walk us through it. One of the things that I think is really important as a business owner is to at least understand your financials. You don't have to look at them you're supposed to look at them all the time, but let's face it, we're in a creative industry and it's enough just to get us to learn to understand and read our financials, right? So that to me is how to do it. I always tell people when they ask that same question, start with what you want to earn and then work backwards from it and make sure that it's doable and feasible. When I did that, I knew that I had to triple my pricing. That was the most scariest thought that I had. And I let it stick in my head for almost 2 years because I knew it was what I needed to do. I just wasn't prepared or didn't even know where to begin, how to do it. But I will say this, I stuck to my guns and I did it and I stick to my guns until today. And because of it, we are still in business. So that must mean something, right?
How can we get the mind to meet the desire, right? And I guess what I'm talking about is, for me at least, worthiness. It's like, yes, I know I would like to make X amount a year, but deep within me, do I feel worthy of this and how do I overcome that?
It's also a great question. Imposter syndrome seems to come up every single conversation within our industry, right? Because we all put out this tremendously great work, but inside, all of us, every human has certain insecurities, right? So I'm going to say the answer to that for me and what I would suggest to others is education. And education builds confidence. And education lets us know we're not alone. And education lets us know we're already on the right track and we have everything we need to figure it out. So it's the same thing with therapy, right? Everything the therapist will tell you, everything you need, and all the answers are right here. It's really up to us as individuals to tap into it. A therapist or a business coach or a course guides us where we need to go and lets the work evolve and, open up and guide us on what we need to do. So everything from imposter syndrome to hearing how other people did it to having the confidence to do it yourself. And sometimes I know for me, it took a couple of years. I think it took me 3 years of a lot of education and a big investment in my business. But I got all that money back really quickly and then began to earn so much more. So I can't express enough that if I would have said to myself, oh my God, that's so expensive, I can't afford that, I wouldn't be where I am today. Business owners need to take risk. We need to take good risk, right? We need to take risk that makes sense. So if I didn't have that money for my first conferences or online courses, let's say I remember it was $995 and I was like, right? But that's the difference between a business owner and a not business owner. And that's what I've learned over the last 10 years, that you have to invest in your business, you have to invest in yourself, and you have to invest in your education, and it will pay back 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, sometimes even more, because you didn't just invest in it and go do it. You did the work after. So if I go to see a therapist and the therapist in my hour session tells me all these amazing things and I'm shaking my head and I agree, but when I leave, I don't want to do the work, I'm not going to see the result. So you really have to not hide behind, oh, it's too expensive or all the excuses. Maybe the excuse is that you're just not really ready yet. And I think that's really important because if you're not ready, you're throwing your money away. But if you're ready, even if you don't fully understand it and it's going to be a process, 6 months, a year, 2 years, but you have goals. Like I remember my first conference I went to that made a difference for me. And I came back with like 13 or 15 things I knew I needed to do, but I knew like an apple that I couldn't eat the whole apple at once. I had to take bites. So I prioritized between what I could do, what I could afford to do, what I had to do. And over the course of, I'm going to say 5 or 7 years, I was able to check every single one of those boxes. So I know it's possible, but you have to want it badly.
Oh, this is so inspiring. You know, when I sit on the podcast, I get to talk to experts like you, and you best believe I kind of use it as my own coaching session and just take advantage and ask the things. And, you know, when I was starting my business, I was like, wow, this financial stress of being, you know, self-employed is so much more tolerable for me than the work environment stress I was having. Like, I was like, I would take this any day, you know, and for me, that was how I knew like this was the right path for me. And I think it's okay if somebody realizes like, oh no, I would much rather not take this stress to bed with me and maybe work at a venue or be part of a team, you know, and have that sort of experience. But I definitely related to what you were saying there.
Yeah, a lot of that goes into imposter syndrome too. Like if we don't, that was my issue. And I believe I'm an event planner, so I could just speak on behalf of event planners. I kind of feel, and it's been my experience from starting from scratch until today, that we don't value enough what we do for others. And that is what holds us back from charging, not even what we're worth, just what we should be charging, right? And that is like, that's therapy 101, right? So even coaches, right? My sales and marketing coach, she's not a therapist. So there are things that might be holding me back or might have been holding me back that weren't in her wheelhouse or area of expertise. So I think it's important that we all, business owners and anybody who works, take a look at it globally, right? What do I know? What don't I know? And where's the best place to work on that or get advice or books to read or things like that? Because some of it is emotionally based, just like our clients, our social clients, right? We always say we're 50% therapist and 50% planner, right? Because so many emotional things control us throughout our days. And I think that's really important to remember that we have to get the whole house in order, not just a piece.
So I had even, you know, I'm over 5 years into my business, which for someone like you is new. But for me, I've been, you know, doing this where I'm getting confident with my packages and sending proposals. But I had an inquiry come in and I could tell from their website that they were a new business. And my instinct was to change my pricing. Like, because in my mind, I emotionally was feeling their facial structure change when they see the price, right? And like seeing the disappointment. And I didn't do it. It turns out, yes, they were a new planner, but they also had a full-time job that they were using to invest in the business, right? And I was almost prejudging based on emotion, based on my own self-worth. You know, I'm sure also there's competition to consider, right? You're thinking, oh, I know the competitor charges less. You know, gosh, how do we stop ourselves in those moments?
Well, if we can't do it on our own, we need an accountability partner or a mentor or we need to put a pause button, right? Before when we start to feel that emotion, it happens to me too until today. It does happen to me. And sometimes I'll like reduce my rate just a tiny little bit to help somebody out or for a marketing reason or whatever. And my team will look at me and they're like shooting me daggers. And they're right. It's much better to have 3 clients who are full paid, full service, who value what you're doing for them and the service that you're offering them than it is to have 6, 7, or 8 at all different price points. excuse me, the clients can run us around. And that's the beginning of that, right? So we have to, whether you have to put a post-it note in front of you or something, there are ways I think that we can help people who can't afford our services. I do it every single day, but I'm not giving away what I give to our paying clients because that would not be fair.
I love it. And I think, sometimes if your price becomes almost like, let's say, a little too negotiable to someone where you haven't even expressed it's negotiable and they're trying to negotiate it, to me, I just feel like very often once I'm working with someone where it started out like that, the rest of the relationship is like that,
You set the tone. You set the
Yeah.
tone from day one. And especially in the wedding industry, there's lots of different cultures, and there are some people who like to negotiate in multiple cultures. We don't negotiate. We are not negotiators. Period. End of story. We don't remove clauses from our contract, and we don't negotiate. I'm not saying that if there's a single word here or there that I won't consider it, but to remove a clause from a contract, for example, doesn't protect the client and it doesn't protect us. So why would we do that? So I think that I had to unlearn how to be so nice and sweet. I'm still nice and sweet, but I mean, not when it comes to the business, right? The business. And as I said to my team, if I want to afford my team, I have to charge what I charge. We need a certain number of events a year and everything is great. And so I try to hold that as a mantra of, don't reduce your prices. And there's somebody for everybody. And believe me, if I would reduce my prices, I'd be in Vogue magazine, I'd be in Brides magazine. I mean, I'd be everywhere because I work in all the great venues and I work with great clients who those types of publications would be more than happy to feature. And I just don't. It's not about ego. It's about the bottom line. How much money did I earn at the end of the year? Not to earn so much profit, but to at least cover my expenses and my salary, right? I think that's important.
What are your thoughts on discounting to book or offering perceived values to entice bookings?
Well, I think that if you are 1 or 2 years in business or 3 years and you have not built a resume yet that's going to attract the clients that you want at the price points that you want to work with, then you have to do a little bit of that. You just have to. I have a friend, she's a colleague. She was an amazing wedding planner in Arizona. She moved to Palm Beach. She knew nobody. She had no portfolio in Palm Beach. Her photos, as beautiful as they were in Arizona, were not going to get her hired in Palm Beach. And so for 2 years, she took a lot of jobs that she shouldn't have had to take at her experience level. She went through a lot of grief and aggravation all over again. But she came out of it with an amazing website with, photos, professional photos from these venues where she wants to work. And that's about the only time I would say that somebody should really be discounting anything at all. If it's going to add to your resume, if it's a place you've never worked at or something that you want to do, that you want to feature and show, because it's going to help you get future business, I think that's a very acceptable reason to quote unquote discount or reduce your pricing. But once you're established, and I think at 5 years you are established, then I think it's really important. Look, if people can't hire you for what you do and you feel bad, give them a course, give them something that they can afford, right? Give them free tips. All of that's just going to improve your own SEO and show your own expertise anyway. And it's usually things that you say all the time anyway that you are just recycling because, right? We all need to hear things sometimes 7 times before we change it. So I'm okay hearing about pricing with conviction 7 times before I am willing to price with conviction, right? And most of it is, now that I said the word conviction, most of it is just believing in yourself. We have to believe in ourselves. I definitely did not believe in myself, and that's why I couldn't raise my prices, because I didn't think anyone was going to hire me. And when I finally agreed to raise my prices, in fact, I tripled my pricing and I went to a percentage with a minimum, which almost nobody in my market in South Florida does. And maybe one day we'll get there, but right now we don't. That was a huge leap of faith. And it took me 2 years to get there. But I will tell you, and I say it to anybody who will listen to me, the day that I did that, since that day, I've never looked back. And I used to get paid like nothing for the work that we do. And now we get paid what we should get paid for the work that we do. And it's very satisfying. And it changed my whole perspective. I used to go to work, my friends would say, "Are you in or out today?" And I'd be like, "Oh, today I'm out." And then I'd have a great clients and great meetings, and I'd be like, "No, I'm back." Right? So I feel like now every day's a great work day. Every day's great because we have systems, we have processes, we know our pricing, and we know what to expect from our day. And it makes the job much more enjoyable because it's very stressful what we do.
Speaking of pricing with conviction, I don't know how it is in the super luxury market. Is pricing on the website a thing? And what is your thought on pricing being on websites in general?
So I will go back to what type of business you have and how many clients you look for a year and how big is your team. Because I think those are the first questions that makes the most sense there. If you're in a high touch sector, probably not. Most salespeople that are good at what they do would say, "I want to get you on the phone. I want to hear more about you. I want to talk to you before I share my pricing with you." I think that so many people don't know what things cost. So there's a little education process that has to go through it. And if you're just showing pricing, people are just going to walk away. "Oh, that's too much money," right? So I'm not a huge fan of putting pricing on. I believe it's really, really important for the salesperson or the business owner who's selling to speak directly to that person. I think if you have an intake form and you want to gauge maybe a little where somebody's at, maybe because all we have an intake form on ours, but most of the times when people write what they think their wedding's going to cost or their event's going to cost, they really don't know. So it's just more for the salesperson or to understand where their head is at. And if they're writing ridiculous things that don't make sense, it's a great jumping off point to get on track with them and find out pretty quickly if they're the right fit for you, or more importantly, if you're the right fit for them.
Right, right. So this podcast, when I do my solo episodes, I'm talking about social media marketing. So I'd love to get some of your experience of what are some marketing techniques, whether social media, on the website, anything you've done that you felt moved the needle in your business.
Sure. Well, I'll give a little shameless plug to Erica Powell. She was my sales and marketing and branding coach, and hiring her was one of the best things I ever did for my company because she taught me a lot about an area that I wasn't such an expert in. Ask me how to create an amazing room and deal with clients and guests. I'm fabulous with that. But attracting the right clients, I didn't have that education. So one of the first things that I think is very, very important is to make sure that what we put out there facing forward resonates with the client that we want to have, right? So for those of us who haven't gone through the exercise of who is our client avatar or who is our ideal client, I encourage you just go right on AI and ask ChatGPT or some other AI to help you with a little questionnaire. And then you can identify who your client is. And then it's really important to know what a sellable image is. So before I got educated on this, I thought my best images were pictures, beautiful pictures of ballrooms or gorgeous pictures of flowers. And what I learned pretty quickly is that is not the most sellable image. The most sellable images evoke emotion, right? Or they make you feel like you're having this experience through the phone. So I think that that's really important to get some education on that as well. And we so social media, as you know, has changed a lot, especially Instagram, and especially in the last 5 years. When we first started, I've been in this business since before Instagram. So when we first started, we were posting a lot more than we actually post today. And we were outsourcing our social media to a company. But the biggest problem that we had was that company or that person being in another market or another state, not knowing really, being able to identify really who we are and know our voice. right? So picking out the right pictures or the right making the right reels or saying it in the right voice, that was a real problem for that we experienced. We've had the best luck because we've outsourced it a couple of times and we've taken it back in a couple of times and understanding who we are and who our voice is. And I think that that's really, really, really important. I also believe that video is the wave of the future. We're seeing it already. I believe that people who have the time and the bandwidth and enjoy YouTube channels and things like that, I think that the next generations are going to be looking to educate themselves, because I know from my experience that when I started educating our clients, it also changed our business a lot. And everybody else in the industry is like, why do you do that? I don't understand. Can't you just tell them to work with me, that I'm the best and they should work with me? And what I found was there was a generational shift when parents were making the decisions for the bride and groom. Before, you could tell them, yes, you should work with this person. There was this trust factor, you should work with them. But as times are evolving and as there's so much information out there now on the internet, it's really, really important to give your clients a seat at the table as much as they want. And even when they don't want, I'm so sorry. We'll do the legwork for you. We'll bring you reputable companies within your price point of where you want to be. But you're going to have to be engaged and have a relationship with these companies and let them know who you are, so that it's not coming through us in the middle, so that when we get there the night of, you're not upset with the DJ or something like that. And the reality is that when your friends loved your band, the client is like, oh, I picked them. And it feels so right. And so I think that there's a lag between understanding this and where we're going to come to understand it over the next 5 to 10 years. We're not going to have a choice, really. And I'm in a more high touch industry where I could very easily tell people who to work with and what to do and how to do it. But based on my first 10 or 12 years of experience, it just doesn't really work as well as when you educate up front and give a seat at the table.
Terrific, and great shout out to Erica Powell. Started following her on Instagram, and I'm going to link Chris's Instagram, Chris Weinberg Events, so you can see in action what she's talking about, because it's a really nice and effective feed. But what I really want to get to is hearing about the event summit and why you've created it.
So the event summit is going to take place October 21st and 22nd in Miami, Florida, where my home base is. I'm really excited about it. When I started educating myself about 12 years ago, I had this idea that education was going to help me, and it helped me, and it's really simple. And I'm like, wow, this is so simple that we need to bring it to our industry. Every industry should have education, right? And I really was very strongly working on growing Chris Weinberg Events brand into a national and international brand. We are a South Florida destination wedding center, and people come from all over the world. So yeah, my eye wasn't on education as much, but I love transformation. I love learning. I always have, and I love sharing with others. And so I finally had this opportunity to create the event summit. And the way that I felt that it would be different from some of the many other educational summits that there are within our industry specifically is that it would have a networking component, but it would be more of a workshop summit. So we're going to have a workbook, and each speaker is going to be up there for about 40 minutes. And all the attendees are going to have opportunities all day long to work on their business. And they're going to have time for thought-provoking workshop and workbook information. And what is so great about that is that when they leave, they can continue doing the work. And they're going to leave with a lot of really important and great information. A lot of the seminars and conferences I attend are amazing speakers for 20-minute TED-style talks, and it's great, but you leave and you're like, oh my God, I have all these thoughts in my head. So I wanted to put it in a way that that attendees could really work on themselves throughout that day and have something tangible to bring back to their teams or their partners and share. And we will have networking in the morning with the, for registration, and during lunch, it'll be a networking style lunch with, host and an opportunity to walk around and talk with others after that. And then when it concludes, we're going to have a 2-hour amazing cocktail reception where, again, it's not going to be about dancing on a dance floor. It'll be about sophisticated and professional conversation and mental drain about, a day of working on things that I know in our industry we avoid until we can't avoid it anymore. Many of us do. Some of us are left brain, right brain, so we're constantly thinking about both. But I'm really excited to bring it. I hope that it will grow in the years to come. I know our market needs it, but I know that it's very accessible to anybody from all over the country who wants to come in. Day 2 is a separate fee, and it's a half-day mastermind. And Erica Powell, I asked her to join me. We've never done a mastermind together before. And I thought it would be really great where we could do a real deep dive on branding, marketing, pricing, attracting the kind of clients you want to work with, and everything else. And we are limiting that to the first 40 people that sign up. So I'm really excited that you're willing to promote it for us and to offer a code to your listeners. And I also have a paper on pricing with conviction that I'm happy to share that with you as well. So if any listeners want to pick that up,
I will put the free guide to pricing with conviction. That's going to be in the show notes, and then also in the show notes, as well as on my website. If you go to the resources tab, I'm going to have the link to the event summit with the code. So that will be up for a full month after the episode goes live. For a period of that month, there's still going to be the early bird discount. So, you kind of want to act fast on this. Can you tell us about maybe 1 or 2 of the speakers who are going to be there in addition to Erica?
Sure. So we have the nationally very well-known CEO of Party Slate, Julie Roth Novak, and she's going to come down and she's going to talk to everybody about tech, the latest and greatest, everything from AI to software to how we can automate and make our businesses run more efficiently. She's also going to share a lot about what Party Slate is launching right now, which is a whole suite of behind the scenes private activations that can help us as business owners sell more quickly to our clients. And I'm really excited about that. We also have the extremely talented owners from Gilded Group Decor and Bambini Soiree. They are fabulous designers and have an amazing event production team. Johanna DeLone and Adelie Cabrera, and they're going to come and talk about operations. They have a very large company. They have 40 employees. They are producing the most beautiful events, not just in our market, but outside of our market as well. And they're going to talk about what happens behind the scenes with operations. I think that's really great. And then we have an amazing panel of partners of mine who are going to talk about how they've applied some of these things that everybody's learned all day long, and what's worked for them, or what they haven't applied yet but are going to apply. And I think it'll be really nice. You'll have a cinematographer, a photographer, a caterer, the venue, etc., and an entertainment owner. And I think that'll be giving a lot of insights in real time to a lot of the things that we're talking about at the summit. So I'm really just looking forward to it very, very much.
What I love about it, especially for me being in the Northeast, it's like if I'm going to go somewhere and do a mastermind and focus on my business and my branding, I want to go to Miami. I want to go somewhere else. I want to be in an inspiring environment around people who inspire me, who've done it.
Thank you for that. That's the general idea. And what I've noticed lately in the last couple of years, there are a lot of satellite networking organizations and other organizations that when they find out that there's a summit somewhere, they're doing satellite events around it. So organizations like Emerge and even Party Slate, these are smart groups that say, okay, where are a lot of people going to congregate for a couple of days? So like I was just in New York recently for Party Slate, but there were a couple satellite events that I was able to enjoy as well. So you get more bang for your buck when you're traveling and there's more going on.
Yeah, I'm honestly seriously considering it because I'm like 2 days in Miami learning about my business doesn't sound bad.
Nina, we would love to have you, and we would love to have you host a table for people who are interested in sales and marketing and social media. I think that would be really amazing.
Oh, terrific, terrific. So if this conversation resonated with you guys, and I think it did, and if you're ready to price more confidently, grab Chris's free guide, Pricing with Conviction. It's going to be in the show notes. It's packed with powerful mindset shifts to help you stop undercharging and start building a sustainable business. We're also going to have the links to find Chris online on social media and, of course, to the event summit, because hoping I'll see some of you guys there.
It will be amazing.
Chris, thank you so much for your time today. And thank you everybody for listening. I will see you on the next Wedding Wednesday here on the I Do Wedding Marketing podcast.